Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if it's not your first time here, thanks for coming back. So today we are doing part 2 of my makeup declutter series. And today I am going to be decluttering some eyeshadow palettes. I'm not gonna blab too much. We're just gonna get right to it. I have a handful of palettes here that I'm going to be getting rid of, and I wanna let you know why. If you do enjoy these types of videos, please give this a thumbs up while you're watching it. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe before you leave. The first group of palettes that I wanna talk about that I mentioned in my last eyeshadow palette ranking that I do, periodically, just to give you some speed reviews on palettes that I'm testing. These came in last. Spoiler alert, I didn't like them. These are the e.l.f. and Dunkin' Donuts collection bite-sized palettes. I do not recommend these. I don't like them. I feel like the mattes in this are super powdery. The pigment is almost non-existent on my light skin tone. The shimmers are really dry and crumbly. They are not shades and not palettes that I'm going to reach for anytime soon because my palette collection is huge and I don't need these, so they're going. Another palette that I reviewed at the beginning of this year was the Flower Beauty Forbidden Fruit palette. Again, the quality of this one is just not great. The color story as well is not my cup of tea. It's very bright. I don't know, I just don't vibe with the color story. And the quality of the shadows, it's not terrible, but again, I feel like I've got many other palettes I'd reach for over this one. The mattes in this are okay. They are actually quite silky feeling, more on the pigmented side. So that's nice, especially for these brighter kind of colorful shadows. But the actual metallic shades are definitely more on the satin side. They're not super metallic, especially on the eyes. They're nothing special. So this is just taking up space in my collection, and I don't need this palette. So that's why it's gonna go. I also don't like the packaging with this little plastic tab that you have to latch in or else the whole top of the palette hangs open. That's not a great design in my opinion. But yeah, I just don't need this one. All right, this next eyeshadow palette is a palette that I do love. I do recommend, and I think it is one of my most favorite palettes in my collection. But the reason I am decluttering it is because it is so old. I do not want these eyeshadows in or around my eyes. The ABH Modern Renaissance palette. When this first came out, and I got it, I don't know how long ago, 6 years ago or something like that, this was everything. It was mind-blowing, it was amazing and beautiful.
Incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular.
It was just a great palette, and it still is a good palette. This is just so old, I'm really not going to use this. I think I would consider, if I saw this on sale somewhere, I would consider picking it up again. Although I probably have these shades in my collection as it is, but this is a beautiful palette. I really, really loved my time with it, but it's time for her to go. Rest in peace, Maud Wren. You will be missed. All right, and then the next one is the Milani Gilded Flora palette. So kind of like I said with the Flower Beauty one, I just wasn't impressed with the quality of this. It's fine, it's not terrible, but I'm really not going to reach for this. When they first sneak peeked this palette, I was so excited to buy it because I thought the color story was beautiful, very spring, the pastels with the mix of neutrals, but these matte shades are very, very soft. They don't really quite ever build up to what they look like in the pan. And I don't mind a buildable shadow, but all I ask is that it actually ends up eventually getting to be like it looks in the pan. Even if I have to work for it, it's okay. But I really don't feel like these ever get to that place, unfortunately. So, I mean, if you're looking for more of a softer, colorful look, you might like this. The metallics in this are really pretty. Really, really pretty. But I don't want to keep this around just for the metallics. I feel like ever since I got the Blend Bunny Blends palette, I don't need colorful shadows that are just mediocre. I can just reach into that and get these shades in a amazing formula. So like I said, this is fairly new, so I will pass this on to a friend or a family member and see if they would enjoy it. But I don't prefer the formula. Okay, this is another one that I've had for a really long time that has survived so many declutters, and really the only reason I'm holding on to it is for nostalgia and for the fact that it was limited edition and is no longer available. Are you guys like that? When something is limited edition, I want to hold on to that thing for the rest of my life. I think probably because I cannot repurchase it again if I do declutter it. So anyway, let me tell you what it is. This is the iluvsarahii and Dose of Colors little 6-pan palette. Now, quality-wise, this is wonderful. I love Dose of Colors eyeshadow formula. I think it's great. Honestly, I think I have used this only a handful of times in the years that I've had it. I can probably count on one hand how many times I've used this palette. And when I do use this palette, I actually used it recently just to confirm that I wanted to declutter it. I really only reach for the top 3 shades and this peach. So more of the neutral shades. I don't think I've ever used this blue, and I think this black with sparkles I've maybe used once. I really get just a neutral look out of this. And it's a beautiful neutral look, okay? I'm not saying it's not, but I've got plenty of other shades in my collection that are just as beautiful and comparable shades, comparable formula. So I really don't need this. I'm not getting use out of it, and so it's gotta go. Okay, and now we have another affordable drugstore palette. This is the Essence Dancing Green palette. So they did release these 6-pan palettes, I think last year, and I have 3 varieties. I have the Dancing Green, I have the Bronze This Way, and I have the Coral Me Maybe. And I like the bronze and the coral one. I like them okay. They're not my favorite palettes ever, but for the price point, they're pretty good. This green one, I don't feel like I really need it. I've got plenty of other green palettes in my collection that I much prefer over this one. Because it's so monochromatic and I know I'm not gonna reach for it, I need to just let it exit my collection. Now, the formula of these is, like I said, pretty good. I would say the mattes are pretty good actually for a $3.99 palette. The metallics in this are a little bit more on the softer side. They're not super duper metallic. They are a little bit more of a drier formula. They don't give like a super wet look to the lid, which I prefer in a metallic. Like I prefer either really sparkly metallic or a traditional, thicker, creamier metallic. That's just what I prefer. I kind of just don't need this one. It's taking up space in my collection. Even though it's a tiny palette, it's taking up a tiny space in my collection. All right, another super old palette that has really stayed with me over the years is the Beaute Grandiose palette. I got this palette in a BoxyCharm years ago. I haven't gotten BoxyCharm in probably 4 years, so this is at least 4 years old. And again, powders don't really go bad that often, or it takes a really long time for them to go bad, but I'm not using this. I did get pretty good use out of this palette in the time that I had it. So I really love the color story. It's a warm neutral palette with a pop of pink. I mean, I'm not complaining about that. I love that. But again, I have palettes in my collection, several palettes in my collection that have colors like these, and I just don't need this. It's taking up space. I know Beaute has updated their formula since this palette, but I actually thought the formula of this was pretty good. But again, I haven't used it in quite a few years, so I might feel differently if I'd used it recently. But anyway, I'm gonna let this one go. The next palette I'm gonna talk about is not super old. I got it last year. This is the Wet n Wild Saved by the Bell palette. I did a video reviewing the entire collection. I bought everything from the collection, and there were some hits and mostly misses, to be honest with you. And this one was okay. It's not terrible in terms of quality. There is a pressed glitter, which I would never use a pressed glitter, but really it's mostly the color story. Whenever I reach for this, I really reach for the neutral shades. And it's kind of the same story I've been saying over and over again. I've got plenty of neutral shades in a better formula in my opinion. This is taking up space, and I don't think it's the best quality. I know it's at TJ Maxx and Marshalls for like a super affordable price. I would say just skip it. I really don't feel like it's worth the money unless you're a huge Saved by the Bell fan. And I really did buy this in the first place for the nostalgia aspect of Saved by the Bell, but I don't need this, it's gotta go. The next palette, just like the Modern Renaissance palette, this is a very old palette I've had for years in my collection. This is one of the first palettes that I bought when I was first getting into makeup YouTube 6 years ago. This is the Juvia's Place Nubian palette. This Oh my goodness, this is probably the most used palette in my collection. I used the crap out of this thing when I bought it. It was really like my go-to palette, especially these two lighter matte shades were all I was using exclusively for transition shade. Even as I built my collection up, I was always reaching into this palette for those two transition shades. I love that this palette goes from super light to super deep. There's so many variety of metallics and mattes. It's good quality. It's a really nice palette. You know, again, if it was on sale, I may consider picking it up, but I feel like at this point, I've got so many neutral palettes that maybe I wouldn't. I guess I wouldn't. But yeah, I love this palette. I'm gonna miss her. She was good to me. We were best buds, but it's time to lay her to rest. If you've been here before, you know how much I love the ColourPop quads. They are definitely some of my most favorite ColourPop eyeshadows. I think the quality is great, but I don't feel like all of them are created equal. So I am going to declutter one of them. This is the Down to Earth quad. So it's 4 matte shades, and I bought this thinking that it was going to be a perfect companion palette. I could reach into this tiny little quad if I needed any of these deepening up shades or a transition shade or a black. I feel like these shades are like so kick-up-y and like powdery and just like, whew, like someone just like blew a bunch of pigment onto your face. It just gets everywhere, especially this black. I tried to use it just blended out. I tried to use it as eyeliner, and I noticed throughout the day that I was getting black shadow fallout under my eyes. I already have dark under eyes. I don't need black eyeshadow enhancing that or making it worse for that matter. I really don't like these. They're just very crumbly. They're pigmented and everything, but they're just very messy. So I don't need this. I'm gonna pass this on. All right, next up we have the Alamar Cosmetics Reina del Caribe Volume 1. I definitely have had this for years because I once again got this in a BoxyCharm a very long time ago. And this kind of falls in line with the Dose of Colors little 6-pan I was talking about. Whenever I have used this palette, I've really reached for exclusively the neutrals, these 4 matte shades and these 2 more neutral shimmers. I don't think I've ever used the blues. Blue eyeshadow just isn't my thing, and I've got plenty of neutral palettes. I think the quality of this was really nice, but this is also extremely old, and so I want to get rid of it. I've had it in my collection for years and I haven't used it in years. I keep keeping it around thinking, oh, I'll use it. I don't use it. I just don't use it. So it's gotta go. Okay, and next up, I have 2 palettes from Dominique Cosmetics that I am going to be decluttering. I have the Rustic Glam and I have the Celestial Storm. So I have a total of 4 palettes from Dominique Cosmetics, but like I was saying about the ColourPop quads, I don't think they're all created equal. These 2, I don't feel like the quality is nearly as good as the other 2 that I have. The other 2 that I have are the Latte palette, the original, and the Berries and Cream palette. And I think those palettes, quality-wise and color story-wise, are phenomenal, like very good. So let's start with the Rustic Glam. So this palette, I don't really vibe with the color story. Oftentimes when I take this one out, I really don't know what to do with it. I tend to stick to the neutrals over here in the corner, and the rest of it, I just really kind of don't know what to do. And not only that, I feel like these lighter, colorful mattes don't have a ton of pigment to them, and so like I've already said, I have the Blend Bunny Blends palette. If I need any of these colors, I can get what I want from those. These just don't really hold up for me, so that one I'm gonna get rid of. And then also the Celestial Storm. I really like the color story of this one actually, but the shimmers in this, I do not like the quality. They're extremely dry, extremely crumbly. They're just not good. That's what it comes down to. They're just not good. I don't like the quality of the shimmers, so I don't really need to keep this around just for the mattes because I've got those mattes in other palettes, so it's gonna go. All right, and then the last palette I wanna talk about is the Crown Pro palette. Doesn't even have a name on it. This is very old as well. I got this, from a BoxyCharm years ago. I did keep this around for nostalgia because I remember I wore this on one of my first dates with my boyfriend years ago. I made like a really pretty warm neutral look out of it, and he commented on my makeup how much he liked my makeup. So whenever I look at this, I think of that, and I kept it around thinking like, oh, I'll wear it because he likes the look. I mean, I knew he was a keeper when he commented on my eyeshadow, telling me he liked my eyeshadow, right? That's always a good sign. So yeah, I haven't used this in years. It's just sitting around in my collection. The quality of it was pretty good. It was fine. And I remember this shade right here, they don't have shade names or anything, but this shade over here has a shift to it. And I feel like this is one of the first shadows that has a shift to it in my collection, and I thought it was a super, super cool metallic shadow because it was shifty. So I don't need this, I'm going to let it go. All right, and that is it for this eyeshadow palette declutter. I hope you enjoyed it. You gotta let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you have any of these palettes, if you've used any of these palettes, what are your thoughts? Or if you've decluttered any palettes from your collection recently, I would love to know. Also, I am thinking of doing an eyeshadow palette collection video. I did mention that in my last declutter video, and I will link that declutter video down below if you haven't seen it. Let me know if you are interested in that. I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes. I did count the other day. I have like 120. That's a lot for me. That's a lot. So I would be willing to like kind of go through, show you what I've got, give you my quick little thoughts. If you're interested in that, let me know. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, both beauty and fashion videos, and I would love to see you back on my channel. I want to thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time. Bye.